Hey guys, Chris Carlin from Android Authority here, taking a quick look at the Huawei P10 Lite, which launched a few weeks ago, but we've just had our first hands-on experience. Let's dive in. And I mean that literally because Huawei decided to emphasize the lightness of the P10 Lite by taking us to an indoor skydiving center. Which is not to say that the phone is actually any lighter than the regular P10, because it's not. In fact, it actually has a slightly larger screen than the regular P10. And that's because the light variants of the Huawei P series are more of their own sub-brand than they are variations on the flagship theme. The light in the name refers to the majority of the specs in the phone: a mid-range chipset, single non-Leica branded camera, smaller internal storage, and so on. The good news about watering those specs down a little though is that you'll pay significantly less for the P10 Lite than you would for the regular P10 or its larger sibling, the P10 Plus. At just €349, the P10 Lite is half the price of the P10 Plus and €300 cheaper than the regular P10. While that price certainly fits the specs and style here, there's nothing much on the outside to make this look like either flagship device. The design here is almost exactly like the P9 Lite, which is also known as the P8 Lite 2017 in some markets, complete with rear-mounted fingerprint scanner. Like some Lite series predecessors, it features a glass back rather than the metal found on the P9 and P10, although the color options do include that great shade of blue you'd know from the P10. There's also a black, gold, or white version. Speaking of design, the P10 Lite is a nicely put together phone, as most of Huawei's devices are. It has a 5.2-inch Full HD IPS LCD display, surrounded by those same chamfered edges you'd know from previous P-series devices, and really small bezels for a mid-range phone. In fact, the bezels on the P10 Lite match up almost exactly to those found on the flagship P10. However, its specs are essentially those of the entry-level P9, minus the high-end processor and dual Leica camera. On the software front though, you're basically getting the exact same experience you'll know from the P10 and P10 Plus. Android 7.0 and EMUI 5.1 are all on board, as well as an option for the app drawer, along with all the familiar Huawei features you'd know and love. On the camera front, there's a single 12-megapixel shooter that, as I mentioned, does not have the Leica branding, so you won't get the same results you'll get from the P10 or P10 Plus, but you will still get similar image processing. Some of the photos I took turned out pretty good, but don't expect too much from moving subjects, poorly lit environments, or the front-facing 8-megapixel camera generally. While the P10 Lite doesn't have the fancy black and white sensor for capturing fine detail like the P10, it does have a monochrome filter in the camera app, as well as a full manual mode. I took the same photo on the P10 Lite and the regular P10, one using a monochrome filter and the other using a dedicated black and white sensor, and you can see they're not actually that far apart in terms of quality. There's links in the description if you want to check out the full images. Video quality is pretty decent too, but the lack of image stabilization is quite noticeable in certain conditions, for example when filming while walking. But the P10 Lite still has 4GB of RAM, 32GB of storage, expandable via microSD, dual SIM, a 3000 mAh battery with micro USB, a headphone port, and an IR blaster. It even has NFC, so there's plenty of specs here to keep you happy. But the price has crept up €50 since the P9 Lite, while the basic specs package hasn't really improved any more than you would expect it to in a year. While the P10 Lite is probably still a good buy, it's starting to creep into the territory of much better equipped competition like the OnePlus 3T and Honor 8. We'll reserve judgment until the full review of course, but in the meantime you can keep an eye out at retails in the UK and across mainland Europe. Unfortunately, no details have been released so far for a North American launch, but you can stay tuned to androidauthority.com for all the latest on the P10 Lite and its flagship siblings, the P10 and P10 Plus.